So far away Lucas and lovely audience and welcome to another episode of Wiki Weekend, the series where I, your host for this episode, Karl Smallwood, am joined as ever by my lovely and illustrious co-host, Lucas Holland.
Hello there.
And the basic premise of Wiki Weekends, for those of you tuning in for the first time, is that we scour the lengths and breadths of the internet for a wiki on a subject we're interested in, and see what kind of conversation arises as a result as we go through it. And today, Lucas, I've picked the overarching antagonist of all of Final Fantasy.
Oh, Gongaga.
Yeah. No, we're talking about Sephiroth. So we're striking while this iron is ice cold. And the reason why we're talking about Sephiroth today is because I'm midway through replaying Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, because I just thought, you know what, I played it last year, let's replay it and see if it still holds up. And it does. But as you mentioned, Lucas, I've gotten up to the roadblock for a lot of people, which is just Gongaga. It's like,
that is the moment that I stopped being like, I'm gonna definitely 100% this game.
fuck this 100%, like fuck this platinum trophy, because it is a god-awful area to navigate. It's like, it's no wonder Zack Fair left as soon as he could. It's no wonder he fucked off to become a soldier when that's where he lived. Like, imagine trying to get milk in Gongaga.
Me? Gongaga.
And for anyone unfamiliar with what we're talking about here, there is an area in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth that's also in other Final Fantasy VII games like 7 and Crisis Core called Gongaga. And in Rebirth, it is a nightmare to traverse because there's a lot of verticality to the level. But the map you are given does not inform you of whether or not something is above or below you.
No, it doesn't. And also you're on like these weird set tracks where it feels like it's meant to be open, but every single pathway is an individual pathway decided by those weird mushroom things that you bounce off.
The problem is that the mushrooms don't actually send you in the direction that you think you do. So you'll sometimes jump on one and it'll send you 500 yards across the map to the other end, a mile away from where you were going. Other times it launches you directly into a river, into a monster fight.
And other times it'll send you like 2 foot away. And there's just almost no way of really knowing unless you just learn the map. And I'd say, I'm all mean learn the area because the map does not help.
The map does not help, and it's even more annoying that you'd think, okay, well, I've jumped on this mushroom. Will the map at least mark how far it launches me? No. Better remember.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're not going to talk about that now because, honestly, that was a bigger roadblock for me the first time I played through the game than Sephiroth was. It took me longer to beat the area of Gongaga than it did to defeat the final boss of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And
you say final boss, like, they are and aren't, and, like, as someone who's never played any Final Fantasy 7s other than Remake and Rebirth, it's fascinating to like not know where this is going with Sephiroth, so try not to spoil like that part for me because I don't know what the fuck Sephiroth even is.
Well, that's the thing is all Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth are kind of like not following the original story of 7, and you probably know the broad stroke.
But it's not.
Yep. That's like you have like the canon ghosts that like whenever things aren't going to the canon of Final Fantasy VII show up and like go no go this way, and like no go away canon ghost, I don't want to fight you.
Give me a break.
Jesse, Barrett,
Where you been?
they just keep coming.
And then recently I heard someone bringing up in a discussion that like in one of the old, I think it might have been like Advent Children or some one of the extra Final Fantasy VII universe things, Sephiroth like summons and uses canon ghosts as weapons, and it's like, is Sephiroth using them for his own usage or what is going on? Like, it's such a confusing game.
And you know what? It was confusing to start with. Now it's even more confusing. So to keep things simple, let's just follow the wiki, shall we, Lucas? So Sephiroth is the main antagonist of Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and one of the major antagonists of its extended universe. And I love the idea of an extended universe around the 7th game in a series.
Yeah, and also bear in mind he's one of like a super boss in like multiple Kingdom Hearts games too. He's also the main antagonist of Mario in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Yeah, like he just follows Cloud to whatever. Like whenever Cloud's like, "Hey, I got invited to like Super Smash Bros," Sephiroth turns up to ruin his fun. When like Cloud's in those like Dissidia games, Sephiroth turns up and is like, "I've got better combos than you."
And I've got to respect the hustle because he literally, as I say, he turns up to Smash Bros after Cloud was invited the gen prior and is like, "You know what? I'm going to kill Mario and then fuck up your life."
And then he beats the final boss in one swing. And I'll be honest, as a fan of Devil May Cry, for 1 second until they started playing One Winged Angel, I thought it was Virgil.
Hey, Virgil! Your portal opening days are over. Give me the Amato.
If you want it, then you'll have to take it. But you already knew that.
It
For
was
1
that
second.
thing of just both me and you had the exact same reaction. I can't remember whether we recorded our reaction or not, but
I'll see if we
I
did.
remember being in the same room as you, and we both were like, "Is this Virgil or Sephiroth? What's going on?"
And then you just hear the dun 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 dun. So, of course, it's Sephiroth. Sephiroth is way more well known than Virgil is, even though Virgil would have been a good pick too.
It would have been, and I'm kind of sad. That's one of the main picks that I'm sad is not in there. Is like Dante or Virgil, but like we've got to talk about One Winged Angel maybe being the most masterful operatic piece of music to ever come out of video gaming.
It's probably one of my favourite video gaming songs. I have to give it a lot of credit because it's the song that got me into playing guitar. And specifically, it's the Black Mages version, which is the live version performed by Nobuo Uematsu on stage with his band, The Black Mages. And when about 3 or 4 minutes in, it just kicks off into this guitar riff. And as a kid, like a little edgy teenager, I was like, "Oh my god, what is this?" And then when I learned to play guitar, I went, "Oh, it's actually really simple. It's just an open note played palm muted." It's so simple, but it's one of the first things I learned to play on guitar, and I felt like such a fucking badass. And I was like, "You're just playing an open note, man. It's not that impressive."
That part is true, and I will say that, like, as a fan of the series, you know, I like Final Fantasy music. I'm always the person who sits there and goes, like, as a series, my favourite music is from The Legend of Zelda, but goddamn, One Winged Angel, it's like, watching the actual full orchestrated version, and you realise that just Uematsu, like, absolutely went hell for leather.
It's such a good song, and then in Rebirth and Remake, they went so ham on the soundtrack. Like, just the little mini-game songs. It's like, why do they go this hard for a mini-game where I'm escorting a dog called Salmon? Wait a minute. This little like ditty that plays like as I follow a dog, the lyrics in the background you can barely hear are just bow wow wow, bow wow wow. It's like, wait, what? Why did I not notice that before? Or like when you go into the Yuffie DLC, where they have like 8 remixes of the Happy Turtle theme, including like a heavy metal remix.
Gonna get fully wrecked at the Happy Turtle! Wanna get blind drunk at the Happy Turtle! Girl, get inside, find a seat and order something strong!
Oh, and I'll mention 2 songs, because...
Go for it.
Speaking of heavy metal remixes, One thing I cannot get over, I unironically love the heavy metal Chocobo Final Fantasy 13
It's the best bit about 13, right?
theme.
Is the just the Ride Your Chocobo heavy metal song because it's so out of place.
Castle up with the greens and let him go. Stand back, stand clear as he puts on the show. So cute yet fierce.
It's so out of place and doesn't fit with any of the rest of the soundtrack or game. But as I say, I unironically really enjoyed that song when I first heard it, and still do.
It's a good song, and I like the thing about Final Fantasy being such a long-running series. It has all these leitmotifs that you can continually reference. Like, the opening prelude is always the same leitmotif from the very, very first game.
The other one that I just know as like going hard out of kind of nowhere, because it's only really kind of a mini boss, like kind of, is just the Airbuster theme from Remake.
So I was going to mention the Airbuster of like, it's the best part of the new like Final Fantasy VII trilogy, and it's weird how it's like 3 hours in and they've still not topped the Airbuster yet.
I don't even enjoy the fight that much, but the song,
like, and if people aren't familiar with the Airbuster song, I'll put like clips of it in now, but
Are you alright?
clips cannot do this song justice because it is literally like 12 to 13 minutes long, and it used the original leitmotif of like Let the Battles Begin, which is like the Final Fantasy VII battle song, and just keeps remixing and building upon it over and over and over again.
Phase 2 of the combat trial. You've seen but a fraction of this machine's true capabilities. Hip fire! Airbuster ready to fight. Show me how fast you can run.
and like each stage of the fight, it just gets more and more hype and incredible. And it's like, why of all songs is the Airbuster song? Like,
why did they go
one?
so hard for the Airbuster theme?
Coming at you hard and fast.
And the closest they've got in like the remake trilogy is the fight with Gilgamesh, where they play out a battle on the big bridge. Or like they play their version of Battle on the Big Bridge, and it just keeps building. It just keeps throughout the Gilgamesh fight.
I will have thy buster sword. Then I shall prize it from your cold dead hand.
And I absolutely adore Gilgamesh in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Just his voice is like that. They got his voice exactly right. If he's just like such a dipshit.
So for Gilgamesh, it's forfeit time!
I don't know Final Fantasy VII, but like from what I'm aware of through other Final Fantasy games, is that I enjoy the ones that are a nice mix of being able to be goofy and serious at the same time.
Keep it up, Cloud! Work it!
Do you know the best thing about Gilgamesh though? Like there is a version you can fight in like the combat simulator, and Gilgamesh's gimmick is that he has a bunch of weapons from previous Final Fantasy games. Like he whips out like the rune axe and stuff like that, and Excalibur, and of course like, this is not my Excalibur, this is Excalibur! You think, it only does 1 damage, dipshit, what are you gonna do now? I'm just gonna swing it 8,000 times.
This is not my Excalibur! This is not Excalibur!
Wait, what? But if you fight him in the combat simulator, he has Masamune and the Buster Blade. Like, he's got Cloud
shit.
Sword and stuff. Oh, fuck! Like, he was so bad when I thought him in like the combat simulator. I was like, Well, I beat him once. I know his weakness is fire. What the fuck's he gonna do? And then he whips out the Buster Blade and the Masamune. Oh god, no! What do I do against this?
Not just Cloud Sword, that's Sephiroth's sword as well.
He whips out just like those, like, oh, that is so good. But no, speaking of the Masamune, before his fall from grace, Sephiroth was one of the most lauded success stories of the Shinra Electric Power Company's Soldier programming. I wonder if there's any sort of messaging there as well, like Final Fantasy VII has an electric company, an energy company that has its own private military that rivals that of nations.
One of those fantastic examples where people are like, I love my games without politics, like Final Fantasy VII and Metal Gear Solid.
Like, just the first line Barrett says to you really is like, Cloud, the planet's dying. You are a mercenary.
We need to save the planet. Yeah.
That we hired to bomb a reactor because the reactor is poisoning people.
People will unironically play a game where you act as eco-terrorists and be like, yeah, there's no politics here.
None whatsoever. So his accomplishments in the field of battle during the conflict surrounding Shinra's bid for global domination led to his status as celebrity war hero and the poster boy for the Shinra military and the company's soldier program. And he's the literal poster boy. Like, in some games they have propaganda posts with Sephiroth on there and he's a celebrity. And again, I wonder if there's any sort of messaging there of like, who's the biggest celebrity in this world? A soldier who kills people.
Well, there's also just the marketing campaign around, like, the shampoo that he uses, right?
Yeah, that's in Crisis Core, where you can join the Sephiroth fan club. And if you play the game long enough and get to, like, the final step of that quest, you find out the leader of the fan club is Hojo. And he's just obsessed.
Shit.
It's Hojo who's obsessed with it. And you find out, and then what you do is once you join the fan club, you get sent, like, Sephiroth fun facts. And one of them is that Sephiroth has specially formulated shampoo made by Shinra because they realise that he is their poster boy. He's like their leading propaganda effort. It is in their best interest to ensure that he has a literal squeaky clean image. So they develop special shampoo for him that lasts 7 days. And it's like takes an entire bottle, an all day to wash it, and it lasts 7 days. And each day the scent changes as it fades through his hair. And they say that when Sephiroth walks past, you get a different one of the scents.
That sounds luxurious and incredible.
Shinra, why are you inventing like giant robots that kill people when you could just make shampoo? Be a shampoo company.
But that does actually mean that Sephiroth can use the excuse of, I'm washing my hair that day.
Yeah, because it literally takes him all day. And what also takes him all day is going absolutely apeshit, because learning of his true origins drove him insane, begetting a compulsion to destroy the entire world in his mad pursuit of godhood. And one of the things that's like really fun about Rebirth is that he keeps showing up to be a dick, which is very Sephiroth. And seemingly his only goal is just making it so Cloud doesn't want to get with Tifa. And it's like, that's a villain move. They make you like Tifa so much in those games. What does Sephiroth do all throughout Rebirth? It's not Tifa. You're like, no, it is though.
I was so happy because the entire time I was playing Rebirth, I think I picked it up like 2 or 3 weeks after it came out.
Yeah.
And I kept seeing people be like, well, I want on a date with this person. I want a date with this person. And I never looked it up. And just through the way I played the game, I went on a date with Tifa. And I was so happy.
And it is the canon choice, right? Because like the thing is, there is the voice actress for Aerith gets asked this a lot. Of, like, who do you want Cloud to get with? And she's been very diplomatic and said, well, ultimately, we want it to be the player's choice. If you like Aerith, then Aerith is the right choice. If you like Tifa, that is the correct choice. If you think they're just all friends, that's also correct. For me, I think that Tifa is the correct choice because Cloud's affections for Aerith are just left over from Zack, and you don't really know the deal with Zack and Cloud just yet, do you? So I won't get too much into it. If you know, you know.
I will say, I'm doing this on purpose because when Remake came out, I was like, you know what, this demo is awesome, I'm going to play the game, and I have now, like, actually made an attempted effort to not therefore look up spoilers, because I want the perspective of someone playing this trilogy of remakes without knowing what's going on, because, like, I think it's an interesting...
It is.
Like,
the fact that you
viewpoint to have.
The fact that you basically know nothing about Final Fantasy VII except for, as mentioned, the broad strokes. Like, well, Sephiroth's in it and they're terrorists, right?
Yeah, I think it's one of those of, like, I'm glad to have been. Obviously, I knew an Aerith spoiler that is the most famous spoiler of all time.
in all video games, right? Aerith dies.
But other than that, it's like, well, okay, I don't know why it happens, I don't know how it happens, and
you don't know when it happens. That's the important thing as well.
Yeah, you don't know when in the game it happens, and just it's one of those things of like they're trying to make this a game for people who have and haven't played the remake. So I thought I'd go in from the perspective of someone that hasn't and try and keep that going.
Yeah, and presumably once you've finished with the trilogy, you'll go back and play the original, I imagine.
Yeah, I will hopefully, at very least, if nothing else, just like look up, you know, all cutscenes, Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII Dirge of Cerberus, Final Fantasy VII,
don't play
Watch Advent Children.
The worst thing about Dirge of Cerberus is it's canon now. It's canon to the new trilogy because like the boss you fight as Yuffie in her DLC from Dirge of Cerberus. It's like, no! But we digress, Lucas. We have some biographical information about Sephiroth here. So his race, human, gender, male. His height varies. So he's either 6'1" or 6'7", and it depends on which source material you consult. And the problem with the source material that people consult is that the measurements weren't right in the original, but people see that as being more authoritative than later additions and addendums. So, for example,
even though it might have been like bad translation problems or something.
For example, Tifa in the original material we got was 5'4", which they've corrected multiple times over the years. Like, no, Tifa's taller than that. She's about 5'7", 5'8". However, because that's what it says in the original book and the original like material people got their hands on, people see that as being more authoritative, even though Square have walked it back multiple times. So Sephiroth is either 6'1" or 6'7". It depends on what you personally think. I just thought it was worth noting that even the Wiki can't seem to decide. And I bet that's one of those things where people keep trying to change it to say one or the other, and that's no, fuck it, both. Put both. Put both, or people keep arguing.
Is it the grower version of Sephiroth or the shower version of Sephiroth?
Maybe it just counts his hair. Like, Johnny has like the big hair sticking up. Because like in the newer like versions, like he just has like long hair that's down. But in the old like games, he had like the giant hair sticking up. Not as like excessive as like characters like Seymour from Final Fantasy X.
Or Cloud.
Yeah, but like, he had the big hair sticking up because I think Villain with pointy hair. I think Seymour is the most ridiculous example of that in Final Fantasy. But I do like Cloud's like spiky hair, and I love that people keep commenting on it. And when you find like the bird, like the little bird in Final Fantasy VII, it's like, does that bird remind you of anybody? And they look, and it's like got the little spiky tuft. And it's like, it's Cloud! It's Cloud as a bird!
It's the Cloud Chocobo!
Wait a sec. That is uncanny. I know, right? Meet Cloud Jr.
And they call it Cloud Jr. and Cloud's like, please don't call it Cloud Jr. And it keeps coming back.
Kill me.
And the last thing I'd like to mention about Sephiroth as a character is that his voice actors include Lance Bass in Kingdom Hearts, and that's the guy from NSYNC.
Hang on, I've heard the name Lance Bass plenty of times, but I didn't know that was a guy from NSYNC.
He's the guy from NSYNC.
I just heard of him as a voice actor. I didn't put those two and two together. That's awesome.
We're here talking in a microphone for some show called The Simpsons, or some The Simpsons. I think it's German.
Yep, George Newbern in Crisis Core. And George Newbern is also a guy who does the voice of Superman in Justice League.
I feel like I live in a world made of cardboard, always taking constant care not to break something, to break someone. Never allowing myself to lose control, even for a moment, or someone could die.
And keeping with that trend, the voice actor in Remake, the new Crisis Core, and Rebirth is Tyler Hoechlin, who's also Superman in DC live action. Isn't that weird?
What?
That he's been the voice actor has been Superman from 2 different DC properties, and then the guy from NSYNC.
It's in sync!
a dichotomy of using your power for ultimate good and ultimate evil, isn't it?
What's the thing about Sephiroth is that he is a hero. That's what makes his fall from grace so, like, stinging for everyone involved.
He was a hero, but he ultimately becomes a very true villain.
Yes, but he like and material exploring, like, you know, his earlier years. So like, they talk about him like in really reverential terms because like, he's the greatest soldier ever lived. Like in Crisis Core, every time Sephiroth, everyone's like, man, Sephiroth's so fucking cool. He's like the coolest and the strongest. His dick's so big.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing in Crisis Core that gets more characterization than Sephiroth is the Buster Sword.
Because it's to do with Zack and Cloud, I presume.
And like the guy who originally holds it, Angeal, he talks so much about that fucking sword. And if you ever play Crisis Core, Lucas, get used to people talking about the Buster Sword.
That sword represents our family's honor.
I see. No wonder. He never uses this sword. Really, ever.
Yeah, that is one game where I'm like, I think I might just YouTube or, you know, watch on Twitch someone playing through it or something, or like watch like the all cutscenes video. Just, it seems like one of those where there's a lot of bullshit to get through.
Well, it's because they have to introduce the Goober Squad of like, okay, we need like Zack and Sephiroth to have some friends, but they've not been mentioned like anywhere else. Give them the Goobers.
Genesis. He used to be such a good boy.
And one of the Goobers is Genesis, and like in every fucking scene that he's like, please shut the fuck up.
Well, it's kind of, you know, sad in a way because of Jesse, but also Biggs and Wedge are there. Because I hate Biggs and Wedge so fucking much. Well, that's the thing is, they introduced these three characters in Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I'm like, okay, but every time I've ever saw anyone talk about the squad of like fucking Vincent and Tifa and Aerith and Barrett, like, there's never been a Jesse, Biggs and Wedge here, so
And I will say that in Rebirth, where fucking Big shows back up, and the moment he turned back up, I'm like, I don't want to do this mission. I don't care. I don't care if Biggs is here or Wedge.
Well, I was going to say, did you care less about the part where Wedge came back or the part where Biggs came back?
There's a part where Wedge gets like dragged out of a window by the cannon ghost, and I just didn't give a fuck if he died or not. Like, I just didn't care. I didn't care because like it's the same thing with like the Goober Squad they send to back up Sephiroth, and the only cool thing they do is when they have like a really impressive cutscene considering it's on a PSP. And he's actually holding his own until they start playing One Winged Angel, and it's like, oh no, why would you let his theme song play, you idiot?
Like, what do you do against Sephiroth when One Winged Angel starts kicking and you just say, ha, ha, ha? Oh, well, shit, it's over. It's done.
Like, are you going to beat a guy when his own theme song's like just playing? And his theme song is people screaming in Latin and then his own name. That's a badass theme song.
It's literally people chanting. Yeah, it's literally people chanting, Sephiroth. It's like, you have not won this fight.
And speaking of never beating him, we won't go into the personality section because that does include some spoilers, Luke, and I would like to keep you as spoiler-free as possible, so we're going to abilities now. Sephiroth is regarded as the greatest soldier first class of all time, whose legendary accomplishments in the field of battle inspired many to join.
Yeah, and it is weird that, as far as I'm aware, Sephiroth is, again, I don't need to be spoiled, but as far as I'm aware, Sephiroth is crazy for different reasons than everyone else going crazy over the materia madness thing of like degenerating and becoming these weird grey people.
Yeah, he goes mad for different reasons and reasons that are quite understandable.
Like some Genova, something, and I'm like, okay, cool, let's go.
Being the greatest byproduct of the Genova project, he has incredible inhuman physical prowess, extremely powerful magical capabilities, and is an extraordinarily unparalleled swordsman. And we have a quote from Cloud here from Final Fantasy VII and the tragedy of 5 years ago. Sephiroth's strength is unreal. He is far stronger in reality than any story you may have heard about him. And the fact that he's that strong, but then like just Tifa rocks up and's like, no, I'm going to punch him now.
Dolphin kick, baby. Let's go.
What's the thing about like the squad that you play as? It's ridiculous how strong they actually are. And it makes sense for Cloud because he's a literal super soldier. But when you're watching the cutscenes, because you can say something like a limit break, that's stylized, right? But the stuff that you see him doing cutscenes, for example, like Barrett, and I think there's a moment in like the remake that I pinpoint is like that's when they came up with the idea for synergy attacks in the next game, and it's where you're fighting like the failed experiments, and like Tifa falls off like a railing, and Barrett with one arm catches her in midair and throws her back up like 40 feet into the air. He's just a guy.
Well, he's a guy with a machine gun arm.
Yeah, but he uses the arm that's not got a machine gun on it to do that.
Oh, yeah. Like, that's the thing is, in the canon of Final Fantasy, most of the squad that you have as your party are just normal people. They're not enhanced by materia, because otherwise they'd go crazy and stuff. And it's not like you have the excuse of Final Fantasy VIII, where every single member of your party has been using GFs and gaining power and losing their memories and stuff. It's just, most of these people are just regular ass people.
Yeah. And they do try and explain it somewhat in Remake and Rebirth, where it's like, for example, Tifa, they say she has control of her chi, and she's able to use that to augment the power of her blows, because the shit she can do is actually ridiculous. Right? When she's doing as much damage with her bare hands as Cloud is doing with, like, you know, a 18-foot long sword.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, obviously each person uses some materia in their equipment, but it's not the same as being transformed by materia into a soldier or anything like that, which is ultimately one of, if not the only experiment Sephiroth goes through. But, like, Sephiroth is an entire superhuman.
Yeah, he's, like, beyond human, as is Cloud, to a lesser extent. And Tifa's just, she's really good at martial arts.
And being good at martial arts, as far as I'm aware, is not powerful enough to stop, like, Sephiroth destroying an entire solar system, but somehow she manages.
And I guess we have to mention Supernova, and I'm excited for the next game in, like, the new trilogy. For, like, you know, I want to see this, how the story differs and how it changes and how it ends, but also, I want to see how they realise Supernova and Knights the Round. And Supernova is, like, Sephiroth's, like, iconic, literal, cosmos-obliterating super attack, where he summons a meteor, which you see in real time go through every planet in the solar system on its way to Earth. And I think they explain it in one of the games where he appears, or like a guidebook or something, that is an actual meteor and it is actually destroying planets. But it's a meteor from another dimension that Sephiroth grabs. So the planets are being destroyed, but they're planets in another dimension. And with all like the interdimensional like hopping in the remake, I'm wondering, like, are they going to do it like where he summons like 5 meteors at once?
He just summons in every single timeline and every single meteor from said timeline.
You'll summon in the one from like FF7, right? He just comes in, it's going to be low pixel and go really slow. It's like, no, he comes and gets you.
I mean, I hope they don't, but that would be such a ballsy move if they were like, you know what? He just, instead of showing the Supernova in all 4K new glory, he just teleports you to the original FF7 game.
That would be baller.
And shows you like a 4K version of the PS1 Supernova move.
I'd be okay with that. And the other thing I'd like to see is Knights the Round, which is the infamous summon, where it's like, I think like 90 seconds long. And you get it by like unlocking like the Golden Chocobo and going to the special island where it's located. And I've made the joke multiple times when we've talked about Final Fantasy of, if they don't make the Knights of the Round 30 minutes long, I want it to be an episode of Game of Thrones. And I want it to be an instant win on every boss in the game. Even like the final boss. But you have to watch that. It's an unskippable 30-minute cutscene every time, and that's how it's balanced.
See, I think it should be that they give you a 90-second Knights of the Round cutscene, and then you have to watch the last episode of Game of Thrones.
No, that'd be too strong. That would be too fucking strong. I'm curious about how they're going to realise those, and presumably they are also trying to figure it out. Because like they've got to somehow top like the Airbuster and the various Genova fights that they've got in those games, like for spectacle.
Well, they really managed to not just up the game a little bit, but up the game a lot to the point where I was extremely hyped and confused about what the fuck happened in that final fight in Rebirth, but there was a lot of shit going on.
Well, the final fight in Rebirth is like busted as anything, because you realise, okay, Sephiroth's pretty strong. What's he going to do against two clouds, essentially?
Well, like, yeah, it's insane, because I'm not going to try and spoil it much or anything, but just...
That's it, it's been out for a year now.
The amount of different phases, but it's only just come out on PC, so I don't want to say too much about it. Like, but the amount of different shit that goes on in that fight, of all the different phases and jumps, and like, you think that happens a lot in the original remake, and then Rebirth is like, how about we give you like 5 more different phases to that?
Yeah, so they really step up like the interdimensional jumping, and if you've seen the front cover of the game, you know that Zack's in it, and you have moments where it's Zack and Cloud. And it's like, you are not winning. I'm sorry, you're not beating those two. I don't care how strong Sephiroth is, he's not beating Zack and Cloud.
I'm not trying to spoil too much, but like, I will say that there is a disappointing amount of Zack for the fact that he's on the front cover.
I was like skipping through a lot of the cutscenes. I know what the cutscenes are when I was replaying it, except for like the character important ones. And yeah, I think it was like chapter 7 when you first see Zack again. You play as him for literally 30 seconds at the start of the game.
He's in like the intro.
Yeah, he doesn't rock up for like another 7 hours.
And it is wild because considering he's on the front cover, like, I just don't think he's important enough to that game. And I understand that the small moments he is in is probably a lot of important moments and a lot of important setup, but also just like, give me a few more moments of it. Give me a few more flashbacks of him spending time with his family in Gongaga, or spending time with Aerith there, or something.
The most disappointing thing is that you, as I mentioned, you get to play as him for 30 seconds at the start of the game, and then the game expects you to remember how he plays 25 hours later against the final boss.
Yeah.
And they just, at no point do they tutorialize how his like gameplay works.
But it's also not that important, because he's not really in it.
He's not really in it that much, but also he's like super strong. And just
but he's not really there. And like, anyway, I don't want to harp on that moment for too long, but yes,
that's the thing. But as I said, you're not beating him, because if people don't know like why Zack is such a fucking don, the reason why Shinra doesn't really have an army anymore is because Zack killed them all. Like the ending of Crisis Core is the entire Shinra army at once tries to kill him, and he decimates it one-on-one. And like there's like 4 guys left.
I can believe that, because that's the exact kind of power that both Cloud and Sephiroth show as well.
Yep. But now imagine like 2 of them.
I want to mention Roche.
Okay, you're going to mention Roche. So he's a new addition. He's not in the original game.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. And you know what Roche reminds me of?
Dante?
In a weird way. Kylo Ren. Because, hear me out. So, Kylo Ren has that moment where, like, he has a hissy fit and the stormtroopers just walk away. And that's essentially Roche of, like, he turns up and he's working for Shinra. He's the first class soldier, and he's on this dope-ass motorcycle, and every single Shinra soldier just shits themselves and is like, oh my god, this guy's insane. I don't know what's about to happen. Run. Like, it's a perfect showcase for how this guy is powerful, but he's completely unpredictable and absolutely maniacal.
I also love as well that you just keep beating his ass. I wish there was a detail every time you beat his ass, he got demoted.
Didn't you know? You and I are living legends.
I got this.
Just the next time you meet, I'm a second-class soldier.
Like, you should get demoted. It's like during like Final Fantasy VIII, where Biggs and Wedge are in it, and every time you meet Biggs and Wedge, you cause them to fuck up and they get demoted. So every time you subsequently meet them, they've been demoted or in a worse position.
But they can't do that because even like the CEO of Shinra got his ass beat by Cloud in Remake, so he'd have to demote himself as well.
That's the thing about Cloud. Like, Cloud is actually fucking redonkulous.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the shit that he can do is, like, up there. And that's why I said, like, the moment you introduce that, it's like, you're not winning. Like, the entire team of Final Fantasy VII could just be Cloud.
And then there's also just whatever that guy is with the shotguns.
Vincent.
No. The Shinra guy.
Oh, Shinra guy, Rufus.
Yeah, Rufus, who just has one of the worst fights in Rebirth.
But it's only because he parries everything that you do. As soon as you realise you can parry him, it's like he's a piece of piss. But the game is really bad at tutorialising. That's how you get him.
Right, okay.
Because the thing you're supposed to do with Cloud is, and one of the things I've noticed about playing back through Rebirth is, there's so much stuff the game doesn't tell you that you can do. And as soon as you realise that you can do it, the game is busted. In regards to like how powerful you are compared to some of the characters. For example, like presumably you know about like the instant block thing. If you like do a perfectly timed block, just you don't take damage, and it works on every attack in the game.
Oh, that's basically why I use Tifa the entire time for like early game stuff with summons and things like that. Yeah,
because you can block everything. But with Cloud, he has that mechanic on his counter when he's in Punisher stance, and you can do it over and over again. So, for example, if you get hit like 15 times, you can do a perfect Punisher parry on each of those, and all the hits stack.
Forget me!
And you take 0 damage, and every time you do that, you just get more and more. It just, oh my god, Cloud's unstoppable. And you just do that on Rufus, and he's got no fucking chance. Like, Rufus just goes down like a sack of shit, because he just doesn't know what he's doing. Same thing like Barrett with his, like, he has a straight up, he just takes less damage from everything. You put Steel Skin on, it's 90 straight seconds if he just doesn't take damage anymore.
You and me set traps, and you got caught one. I guess old habits die hard.
The amount of times I was struggling through summon fights and just relied on Barrett taking next to 0 damage and reviving everyone again.
Yeah, he's that good. And like some of the people's like ability, like Red 13. Well, Red 13's like can block and parry everything. Awesome, fucking sick. No one has a chance. Or Kate Sith, you can stack his Moogle things, like his Moogle bonuses, so you can just repeatedly overstack them. Because if you just send his Moogle in, so you can do you like the dice thing. It was at one point where I had 4 dice out at once that all went at the same time. And it's like, just Kate Sith just costs like 8 spells at once.
I never used Kate Sith enough because I got frustrated with the gameplay style of just... I never got to the point where I really, truly understood how to make them busted.
Kate, like every character is busted in their own way. It's like Yuffie's like the one that's most ridiculous though, because Yuffie has Doppelganger. And Doppelganger makes 2 Yuffies.
Really obviously easy because she has instant access to all elements and has Doppelganger.
Yeah, and Doppelganger makes so you've got 2 Yuffies, and your Doppelganger lasts about 90 seconds and does half damage on whatever Yuffie does. What the game doesn't tell you though is that the Doppelganger doesn't consume any resources. So for example, if you use like a Mega Potion, your Doppelganger will throw a second Mega Potion. If you use a grenade, your Doppelganger will throw a free grenade. If you cast Meteor, your Doppelganger will cast a Meteor. If you stand in Aerith's ward, which doubles your spells, and now you cast Meteor, you will cast Meteor 4 times. 1, for the cost of 1 spell.
Well, and also just the fact that, as simple as it is, you've got 2 characters doing not 50% stagger, but like 100% stagger because of the elemental weaknesses. Like, the damage is 50%, but the doppelganger stagger meter, I believe, is just the same. So you can just almost instantly stagger nearly every basic enemy.
Yeah, and just the fact that you can double everything she can do, including healing, damage, stagger damage. It hits like all the limit breaks twice.
Yeah, so it's really easy to understand why Yuffie's broken as fuck, but I know that, like, Kate Sith in Gaelic would be pronounced Cat-She, but like, or something similar to that, but like, Square Enix have doubled and tripled down. In the game, they are called Kate Sith. I never got around to using them enough because they just didn't seem very good, and yeah, it's one of those of like, it seemed way easier to just be like, fuck it, Yuffie and Tifa are in.
The thing about Kate Sith is, of once you figure out how their mechanics work, they never don't have full ATB bar.
Right.
So you can just forever just be throwing dice. Just making it fucking rain. The Joey Wheeler tech. So you just like, just every time you play as Kate, it's like, okay, I want to end this fight right now, 14 dice. We're playing Warhammer now. Like, all the old cones of Dunshire tech. Get fucked.
Never forget. It's all about the cones.
It's all about the cones. Like Kate's he's even got a little cone. Look, he's got his little megaphone cone.
You forgot about the essence of the game. It's about the cones.
That's true.
It's all about the cones. Like, so every character is busted in their own way, and I'm excited to see what they do with Vincent, because his thing is that he transforms.
So mad that Vincent and Sid are in your party but not playable.
But it makes sense of like what you need to add a new mechanic to the next game. 2 new characters.
I know, but fuck them.
The fact he stands there.
I don't care. Just let me play as Vincent.
It's the fact that Vincent stands there at the entrance to the final fight is like, I'm not ready. And it's like, you're not ready. He's not finished. It's still DLC. But he's like, Vincent's going to be busted as fuck. Because like, if they're referencing stuff from the older games, Vincent had death penalty as his ultimate weapon. That's the thing as well. We've not even seen the level 4 limit breaks yet.
God,
we've not seen Omni Slash.
Yeah.
My honor as a soldier. We're not done here. Bye now. Let's bring it home.
Like, are we going to get like Final Heaven? It's like, we better fucking do.
All right. Let's see if you can keep up with this.
Ugh. Did I just explode?
There's other Final Fantasy characters I like more than Sephiroth. There's other Final Fantasy characters I like more than Cloud and Tifa and Barret. But even me as like a person who prefers 8 and 10, I have to say, like, he is the Final Fantasy villain.
Yeah, and obviously a lot of people tend to say that like Kefka is the kind of more old school Final Fantasy fans will say that Kefka is probably the boss of all bosses, and I've not played through 6 fully. I think Kefka's probably going to be great from the way that people talk about Kefka, but Sephiroth seemingly took the kind of format of Kefka and perfected it, because I've not seen Kefka in every Kingdom Hearts game and 8 spin-offs and 3 remakes, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I will say there's one thing I want to mention about Sephiroth, just like Advent Children. This is a great little bit of behind-the-scenes detail. So, for Advent Children, because it's like one of the first times they could render Sephiroth in such high detail, there's a load of stuff that they had ideas for that they couldn't realise due to just the constraints of the technology that, like, you know, on the PS1. One of which is that Sephiroth never blinks or breathes to highlight his otherworldliness. So, like, throughout the fight he has with Cloud, he never blinks, and you never see him, like, struggle or, like, exert himself in any way, because he's Sephiroth and he doesn't have to.
He never swears.
He doesn't need to. He's perfect. Like, it's to highlight how fucking perfect he is, and it takes, like, Cloud needs to bust out the most busted out. He needs to bust out 7 swords. He needs to do Omni Slash Mark 2.
And I think, you know, it says it all that, as you say, me and you are both big fans of Final Fantasy VIII.
Yes.
And Ultima Seer in Final Fantasy VIII, A, just absolute bad bitch. B, gets the moon to cry monsters.
Yeah.
And still holds no candle to Sephiroth, I will fully admit that.
Yeah, or like you have Seymour, who's basically just Sephiroth, but we've got Sephiroth at home. And, like, Seymour is terrible, and the best thing he does is the fact that like his story is kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Him being like, you know, half Guado, half human, and that he's like his summon in that game is like his mother, which makes it interesting. And I will admit as well, Seymour's theme, nothing beats One Winged Angel, but Seymour's theme is pretty fucking boss.
No, it's not close.
It's not close, but it's good.
Close, and
it's
I was
good.
like, I thought I was preempting you. I thought you were gonna say close, and I was like, do not use that word when it comes from One Winged Angel.
No, it's good. That's the thing, I think it's good. It's the problem is that when you compare it to One Winged Angel always wins. But Final Fantasy is a series that's full of fantastic music, and if people out there would like to talk about the music or tell us their favourite song or character or moment, you can do so by following the links to our Discord found below. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Hopefully we've not spoiled too much. Like, I'm more speaking to you here, Lucas, because I kind of like the idea that you're not at all familiar with the story of Final Fantasy VII, so you're going to be like playing through Final Fantasy like 7 Remake, Rebirth, Part 3 or whatever it's going to be called, like the voice actress for Aerith was in that stream.
Yeah, the fucking Kate Sith moment when the plates fall down and it's like, why is there a cat crying?
It's still one of the funniest things to come out of like the remake, and if people want the context, it's the voice actress for Aerith was specifically told not to play through the original game. When she auditioned, it's like, well, we want you to make the performance your own. And she did, like, after she'd done the voices. When she was playing through Final Fantasy VII Remake, it was just when it gets to the plate falling and you have the Kate Sith cameo, she just goes like, because she doesn't know what Kate Sith is.
That's the thing, is like, me and the voice actress and many people watching this video all had that shared moment of who the fuck is this cat and why are they crying?
It's more the fact that he's beating his tiny little... And the thing is, not a cat, he's a robot. He's a robot cat.
But we didn't know that at the time. It's like, why is there a cat with a crown and a cape crying over this? What's going on?
I saw that, I went, oh, that's kind of cool. That's like a neat cameo. We'll see you in the next game, no doubt. And just the fact that the voice actress for Aerith is like, and it's her face, well, she's just like...
So it comes out of nowhere, and it's the one time you see that character in the entire game.
And that's what makes it so fucking funny, right?
It's so funny because there's no prior build-up and there's no answer. It's just, there was a caped, crowned cat crying when Midgar fell. It's like, what is happening?
And it's so good, and I can't wait for you to see all the bullshit that's going to introduce in the next game. Like, you get to see what, like, Vincent turns into for, like, his level 2 limit break, Lucas.
I don't know. Yeah.
Like, you saw him turn into, like, a giant werewolf monster. You've not seen what shit he turns into after that.
I've, like, for the longest time known, Vincent is cool vampire man. But again, I know so little about FF7 that I find it such an intriguing way to play these remakes.
Yeah, and you're going to see some bullshit. Like, I just can't what's Omni/Slash going to look like.
Because I still remember playing through the Final Fantasy VIII with you and being like, why is the moon crying?
Oh, do I? Fuck you. Let's go. Perfect.
And thank you to everyone that's watched till the end of the video. We would like to just use this opportunity to give a little shout out to everybody supporting on our highest tier over on our Patreon.
Yes, if you've watched any YouTube video by now, you know what the deal is. You give us money on Patreon, we shout your name out at the end of the video, regardless of how stupid it sounds. And Lucas, what's the first name we have to shout out today?
Well, the first name isn't stupid, Karl. It's quite awesome because it is B of Awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen, behold your new god.
B of Awesome.
Ahoy, hoy, lowly mortals.
Well, that's not a bad name, Lucas, but I counter it with Dan Daly, all one word. I feel like we're playing Yu-Gi-Oh right now, Lucas.
And I play my Blue Eyes White Dragon.
Draw your last pathetic card so I can end this, Yugi.
Our Patreon has no pathetic supporters, but it does have Dan Daly!
No one's ever been able to call him.
Just mind crush.
And Karl, the next card that I'm going to play has actually requested a clip for you to put in this edit. So
okay.
I guess that's your job now, but they would like to dedicate this to the goal of adding a gaming channel to our repertoire. And that is from the lovely Michael Tatum.
Okay, it's $500, you have no choice of carrier, the battery can't hold a charge, and the reception isn't very—
Shut up and take my money!
And that's the first person so far to request a specific clip, because a joke I like to do with our end of video shoutouts is just put a random clip in from a show or a movie with that person's name superimposed over it. And if people have a funnier clip or a specific clip they'd like us to put with their name superimposed over it, why not, right? I actually like that because I'm running out of clips to find, so that would be helpful.
Identify this Pokemon.
This is gonna be a breeze for me. It's a Voltorb.
And the answer is a...
Michael Tatum.
Seen from above.
And Karl, I guess another way that people can support us with their money is to just get us to read out silly names.
Yeah, so in that vein, and last but certainly not least, the final person we like to shout out is Woo Won King Day Willy Wonka. I'm now wondering, Lucas, what is the longest name you can have on Patreon? Because could somebody change their name to ooh-ee, ooh-ah-ah, ting-tang, walla-walla, bing-bang, ooh-ee, ooh-ah-ah, ting-tang, walla-walla, bing-bang?
I guess we'll see maybe next month. I don't know.
Because that's the clip I'm putting in for Woo Won King Day Willy Wonka. Woo Won Won King Day Won Willy Wonka. Ooh-ah. That's going in.
Oh my god.
Hey, witch doctor, give us the magic words.
Woo Won King Day Won Willy Wonka.
Ooh-ee, ooh-ah-ah, ting-tang, walla-walla, bing-bang. Ooh-ee, ooh-ah-ah, ting-tang, walla-walla, bang-bang.
Thank you, of course, to everyone for supporting us over on our Patreon, and thank you also just for watching.
Yeah, it's very much appreciated, and we'll see you all next time.